This is Royce Hall, your host of the Coffee Dreamin podcast, your online network for sales leaders, operations leaders, marketing leaders connected to the Salesforce ecosystem. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Paul, it's great to have you today. Paul Daigle, you are a founder, a multi-time CEO and founder. You're working with the Biz Advisory Board now. It is great to have you on Coffee Dreamin.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
need to have some of the coffee you've been drinking because you're really up.
Hey, I've got some good stuff if you're ever interested.
Yeah, I bet.
This is a whole nother tangent. I was actually just talking to, I do a lot of work with Salesforce, right? I was just
Yep.
talking to a team yesterday, and one of the guys was like, so tell me, like, you're really into coffee. I saw this on your website, and we talked for like 30 minutes on that. So, like, I could definitely go down a whole tangent about my favorite preferences. We won't do that today, but if you're ever interested, oh man, there's all sorts of fun stuff to talk about there. But that's not what we're here for today. Maybe you can help me scale my business. That's more up your alley, right? Tell me about what you're doing with Biz Advisory. Like, you're helping people build businesses, get evaluations, build their value, and exit. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Royce, for having me here. Let me go back one page though.
All
I used to
right.
be a CNN talk show host, talking about IT stuff during drive time, and
Right on.
so when it comes to podcasts and radio or anything else, producer and everything, and so and that's part of my career, is that I've always it's always been IT focus, IT development, CRM, SaaS products. Here I am pushing out all kinds of acronyms. I don't think I should, but it's you gotta go out in other tangents as you grow. Like in the IT services industry, we had clients that were anything from doctors to people that shoveled dirt and snow and stuff like that. But they got to grow their business in order to provide IT services to these businesses, whether it be the equipment, the networking, or the back end, scheduling, ERP system, all kinds of stuff that Salesforce can do today. Um, you got to understand the business, and then you apply the right technologies to that business to enable them to scale and grow. But I was an owner operator of a value added reseller that turned into a managed services provider, and we were coaching and teaching our providers on how we needed to buy software. We didn't want to buy the software package and we have to buy another software package in a year or two. We want to buy it on a month to month basis and get it. So so their sales lined up with the way that are done now by there's a better word for this, but you buy it month to month. Microsoft 365 sales. You're buying all these licenses a month to month. You buy what you need, and you don't buy more than what you need. And so it's a really custom and really nice way of going about doing business. And that has really matured in the past 20-25 years. But we got involved back then. I thought it was going to make my life simpler. I sold off my MSP. I sold off my UCAS, which is voice over IP. I sold off my backup disaster recovery. I sold off my telecom service, my technology service brokerage. And then I go, okay, once that was all done, I go, what am I going to do now? So I started getting calls and go, hey, I got a call from the largest NEC phone systems dealer in the Southeast United States. And, they were supplying equipment and services that went into the offices, that went into a closet in the offices. And they were trying really hard to make that a virtual type of system, a voice over IP system. But every time they did it, they kept on getting slapped in the hands. They lost the opportunity to ever sell anything else to that customer. Like a lot of the customers they had for 20, 30 years. But the customers heard about voice over IP, and they wanted to go to voice over IP. And they sold them voice over IP rather than selling them an on-premise system. And and things did not go right. The quality of service, and having the right firewalls with the right rules that would send the communications through, where you get the choppy voice blocks and stuff. They didn't have that, so they invited me to come in. I went in there and I put in all the type of stuff that we're doing for the MSP side to ensure quality of video. Prioritize video, prioritize audio over just a searching and going to look for emails through the internet. And so, turn that company around by 103% in 13 months. And so, I've done that in the medical field, but I've done a lot more in the technology field. IoT product for gunshot detection was really, really big. So I took that company off, was there for about a year, and ended up with 13 distributors throughout the United States and Puerto Rico. And our distribution was so fast, so strong. The engineers had a hard time keeping up, because once you put some things into place to take your product, like with Salesforce, you go in the marketplace, and if you position right and you do your own marketing on the back end and push opportunities up there, you can grow really, really quick. But it takes a lot of time to identify who your clients are when you're developing these projects. Especially when you can develop the projects that the customer you're developing with, you go into some sort of partnership where they're benefiting from it. Or if they'll let you have the whole thing, then package it in such a way that multiple Salesforce organizations and people can utilize your code. Salesforce, when they do M&A, they don't buy the a lot of times their intellectual property. And I know some Salesforce organizations that and Salesforce has actually bought because their way of doing things was better than what they currently had on the market. So the sunset what they have and then put in their package and just go that way. There's so many different ways of benefiting and working with the core organization in any type of business you have. But Salesforce is a really cool and unique opportunity because they'll write everything. Well, you guys will write everything for anything, and right. It doesn't much matter. It's the web equivalent to HTML and Java.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's the interesting thing about Salesforce is in some ways it's not, they pitch themselves as no code or low code, but once you start getting into that customization, it's like, okay, we're we're building very complex things that the average line of business user isn't able to work with, right? So, I used to be in a custom development shop, and it's like, oh, we can build anything for anybody, which was not a great sales pitch, but it was true. And in many ways, Salesforce is the same way. It's like you can adapt that for any business, and we can build just about anything that you want. But I think the core value is the platform itself has so much base functionality that you can tap into that Salesforce is upkeeping for you. Like that's a level of technical debt that you don't have to worry about. Like you still have to worry about your customizations and the impact there, but you don't have to worry about that kind of baseline technical debt of like, okay,
yeah,
how do we maintain impacts?
Yeah, they have the development platform.
Yeah.
That you guys pull on and rely on, and this, gamers have their own development platform. And I know of one or two new ones that are going to be coming out that are going to disrupt the market, which is just really cool. I've always been on the bleeding edge, where if it wasn't available, I would make it.
I love it.
And so for one, many years ago, I was the largest CRM reseller, an ERP reseller in the world, selling the Goldmine Front Range product. And so, at that point, it was really cool. It was a lot of fun, but Salesforce is just coming out and going, do I take all my resources and retool and re-engineer? I think at that point I go, well, do I go into Salesforce or some equivalent? Or I think at that point I made the choice to go to voice over IP and UCaaS. And so, Not sorry for the decisions that I made, but maybe should have probably kept that stuff in line, because I had a staff of 30 people at one time. We're a training center. We're all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Ran a BBS at the time.
Well, let me ask you something then. So, like, right now, everything is about agents, AI, and advanced, generative AI. What is your take on, like, since you're on the bleeding edge? What is your take on the disruption that's having in the market? Like, I know some people are like, it's fake, it's kind of a repackaging of what's everything that's already been there. Other people are like, it's the Terminator future, like roll toast, and there's a lot of range in between.
Royce, holy smokes. AI is not a simple plug-in. It's a methodology of operating a business. I went to a trade show where they were in marketing to the tech industry, and they started off by saying, okay, everybody needs to spend 2 days a week on AI, just playing, just doing whatever, and seeing what they can do to help AI in their jobs. You have to do it. And we're going to be measuring how much time you're spending on AI.
Hmm.
And if they didn't do it, a lot of people, and there's a paradigm shift within the people within the organization. Some people wanted to adopt, some didn't. Like when you're changing the paradigm shift from a computer break fix to managed services, you don't have the same staff. But what they were able to do, and I'm going to be off of my numbers here a little bit, but what they were able to do is they went from a staff of 200 to a staff of 35. And their profits increased like 200-fold, 300-fold. Their turnaround was next to nil on being able to produce stuff for people, that they had to slow up the time. You give me Royce, you give me an idea. I'm your agent for the marketing, and I can do it in 15, 20 seconds.
Hmm.
And if I did that, I would reduce my value proposition, because it used to take you a week to 2 weeks
Right.
to come up with the same stuff. Now I can do it in a short amount of time. Let's schedule a call for tomorrow
Yeah.
or the day after, or in a week, whatever you need to do. And so, funny that you asked, because I wrote a newsletter that's posted in my LinkedIn under Paul Daigle. You take a look at newsletters and seeing what AI is doing for the industry. AI for all industries, every professional, white collar industry. It's gotten rid of those entry level jobs. And the mid-level guys have to know it and have to learn it. Otherwise, their time at that organization it's a countdown from 10 to 0 that they won't be around, because all the college graduations and all those new entry level people, now it's forcing those guys to know AI. Not only did they need to know the industry that they wanted to go into, that they needed to do internships, and they need to have extracurricular activities that hopefully pertain to the industry that they want to go into. Say it's banking. Now they need to know AI. And if they don't know AI, they need to go get a master's degree in their career. And hopefully that will force them to learn AI. Then at that point, that's going to be an entry-level job that's equating to a mid-level position today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a daughter that's doing game design, and she's going to graduate next year. There's going to be no jobs for her. She needs to, at the same time, get a project management certificate. That will help. Being a woman in the industry, too, will help, because a boy at 20 years old is a lot less mature than a girl is at 20 years old. And the leadership is what a lot of these organizations are looking for. Mm-hmm. And so, I've gone off on a tangent. There's a lot there, but let me take the AI and what it's doing for the managed services industry. You got those companies, those MSPs, that are doing less than $20 million in revenue, and they're going for the AI to introduce to reduce the amount of work they do on the help desk. And it's like almost like a plug and play. The big manufacturers are offering it, but the big manufacturers are falling behind 6 months at least on the integration and the more tools that it can do, because those big organizations are not only doing, the ticketing, but they're doing the patch management. They're doing a whole bunch of other things where they're not focused on just AI portion, where you got these third-party organizations come in. Hey, we'll plug in our AI into what you have, and you'll be done in a week. And then we'll show you how to use it and everything else they need to do to incorporate it. But that's a light version of AI. You got the heavier versions of AI that are really going to disrupt what we have going on by putting AI in the entire organization, from administration all the way down, procedures, doing a whole bunch of automation and standardizing the automation. But those integrations take 3 to 5 months to put in and cost over $100,000 minimum to just put in, with the training and everything else has to come into place. But once they have that in place, and there's a few of them that are on the 4th month right now, but once they put that into place, they'll be able to accelerate their growth by bringing on new clients without having to do anything on staff. And they've been able to, for the staff that doesn't want to, drink the same coffee, drink from the same coffee cup, they've already ousted themselves. And so now, eventually, in another 4 or 5 months, they're going to be at the point where they're going to be looking for people with AI. The more you know AI, the better the LMMs and everything else that you are with prompting, the better you are, or the better entrenched you are in AI in order to get those answers, to get your job done faster, more expedient, and more accurately, the better you're going to be.
Yeah, so let me, I guess, dig in a little bit more there. You mentioned, okay, like your daughter who's graduating, and she's doing internships. She's doing these resume building. You mentioned, okay, she needs to either do the MBA route, or find some projects.
Master's degree, yeah.
Yeah, so people like me who are like, okay, I'm in the middle of my career, like I'm not going back and getting my master's. Like, what do we do to figure out AI?
Play with it. Play with it. Get good at it. Have you help you write some code. I was, I'm writing a HTML right now, and I haven't played with HTML for 15, 20 years. I'm writing myself a chart to put up on my website. Now, it is taking me some time, but I'm using AI, and it would have taken me 10 times the amount of time.
Yeah.
But as I'm going through it, I'm learning how to ask AI the proper questions in the proper ways. And my issue is that let's just get the first part done. Then we'll handle this. Then we'll handle the savings of the information I put into the graph,
Right.
and then we'll handle this. You got to give it in a big picture. If you give it in small little modules, it'll do okay, but you give it the big picture, and then work down the stream of what you're doing. This is what I want to do next. Give me step-by-step directions on what I need to do to get this done. Then as you go along, you take it, you test it, take it. Hey, it's working fine. No, it's not working fine. And then AI goes, oh, okay, yeah, I see. I give it screenshots. Go, you messed up here. Here's where you messed up, and go fix it. And so it's learning how to communicate. And the thing is so many different versions of AI, the Microsoft, the Google, the chat, and then the iterations within them. It's just so much. Eventually, you settle on one that comes somewhat recommended to you, and one that you can communicate. Because I was talking to somebody at one of my board meetings at the bank. I said, ChatGPT is one of those girlfriends that you go through a dating stage. and it's really kind of fun, really kind of cool. But now I'm 6 months, 9 months into it. I'm going, holy smokes, my partner knows so much more about me than I ever thought. Then you're 2 years into it, I go, I can never break this. I can't divorce this lady. I go, she knows all this stuff because it keeps a history of everything you've done. And it gets to know you, gets to know your style. It challenges you every now and then with the M dashes. You know what M dashes are?
I don't.
In wording, I'll let you write a newsletter, and instead of using commas and parentheses and other punctuation, it uses a dash rather than a comma. It's called the M dash. And in AI, when you create something in AI and you go through, you do the editing, but you miss an M dash, people are going to come back to you. Oh, you wrote that newsletter using ChatGPT because you have M dashes in it. And so the whole key is to get rid of those M dashes and take it and convert it and put it into your own words. Even Grammarly uses M dashes. And that's the, people don't want to be insulted by reading stuff that comes from AI. They don't want to be insulted by images that come from AI. There's so much noise out there. It's so hard to know what to believe and how to believe it. And and you use AI in such a way that for ideas and different ways of thinking, and then take that and make it yours. So to get back to your question, to continue forward, to be efficient, Royce, if you're not using AI, other people of less skill and less talent and less maturity of you are. And they're going to be blowing you out of the water if they're not doing it already. AI is fun. It's exciting. Don't go back to college. Learn AI. It's like back in the day, you used to go, get your CCP, get your Cisco certifications, get your Microsoft certifications, get your Salesforce certifications, and by getting those certifications, it proves that you know what you're doing, and you have the ability to learn. Too bad AI has stuff, but I don't know what stuff is good, what stuff is bad, because there's way too much noise out there. And you can't ask Copilot to go, who's the best AI? Right. You got to go Copilot.
That's right.
And the thing is to take the AI and tame it for what you need and what your industry is. Like the conversational AI. You call up an attorney and go, okay, I need an attorney for employee fraud. You don't want the AI, the conversational AI, to go, oh, you need to be calling ABC attorney up over here. So, but that's AI 101.
Yeah,
but that's what it's about.
Well, I love that framework though. Like, AI again, like it enhances the people, and like even in the situations that you're talking about, where the company went from 200 headcount down to 35. Those 35 people were, sure, like 165 were displaced, but those 35 are enhanced, right? They're their own natural abilities. You're
doing the work of 5 to 10 people.
Yeah, exactly.
A day. But once we get used to that in every industry, then we won't want to pay as much on being a part of the executive team of any business. That's not taking that much to do it. And it's a value decelerator in a way, but that the cost of the tools, knowing how the tools, you need to make sure that you don't discount your fees. You don't discount what you do. It's knowing what to do, how to do. There's a guy, I think a government has a submarine that was non-functional, and they fly this guy from the United States over to England, and he goes there and he goes in the submarine, and in about 2 minutes he grabs a little hammer, taps someplace, and everything starts working again. It's knowing what tool to use, where to tap it. And they didn't want to pay him. They paid him. They paid him for expertise, his history, and his ability, demonstrated ability to be able to do things and solve things. But they're going, he only spent 10 minutes on the sub.
Yeah.
We paid all this to get him here really quick and everything else, and he knew exactly what to do. Don't devalue your experience and your credibility.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you're a fan of gap selling. I love the gap selling methodology. Are you familiar with gap selling?
No, I probably know it as something else, but go ahead.
Sure. So the idea of gap selling is, what is the value of the output, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, if the value of the output is $1 million, you can charge anything up to $1 million and it'll be worth it, right?
Yeah.
So,
very much
like,
so.
what's the pain point? Like, what's the pain point of that, sub problem? Well, we have a $100 million sub that's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could charge you $90 million, it'll still be worth it.
No, well, and the thing is the way I handle that is you're not going to spend $100 million to fix a $3 million problem.
Right.
You're not going to spend $100 million to fix a $30 million problem. Will you spend $100 million to fix a $50 million a year problem? Maybe my return investment would be 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that $100 million deal, that's your budget. But what's your real budget? Royce, I'm asking you. You got a budget of $100 million to fix something. But what's your real budget?
Well, I probably don't want to spend all of that. So, like, if it's a $50 million a year problem, well, maybe $100 million covers it. Maybe $50 million covers it. But like, if I have to spend $200 million on this, and it's something that's going to, solve that problem for the next 50 years of my business, I mean, that's potentially worth it right there. Like, even though my budget is $100 million, if I double that, it's still worth it, because it solves a problem that I will get returns on in perpetuity.
You're talking about organizations that have $1 billion, a $1 billion company, and for them to spend $100 million, and then I just bumped you up to $200 million, but you can't exceed 220, 250. I just found out your gap.
Exactly.
I just found your gap. Now, am I going to be a nice guy? And then what I'm going to tell you is sorry, Royce, I can't do it for $250,000. I just can't. I don't feel good doing that. I'll do it for 125. How do you feel?
I feel like I won, even though you increased my budget by
25%.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the exact point.
The gap. And the thing is I'm going to be still making, my profit's going to be 80%.
Yeah.
On the deal, and the customer's happy.
Exactly.
And I'm providing you a custom tool, a custom services, and everything else that no one else can provide. And I'm going to solve your problem.
There you go.
Drop the mic.
There you go. You didn't even read the gap analysis book, but you've got it down.
I know it under something else.
Right on.
I got it. It's when I was a kid, I had a neighbor across the street that gave me my first analysis, and it gave me the first realization. I used to cut his grass once a week. His grass grew so fast during the summer, and it was hard. I had to cut over 2 or 3 times to get rid of the lumps it would leave in the grass.
Sounds like my yard.
What's that?
So that sounds like my yard. That's exactly
Yeah, there
how
you
mine is.
go.
Ugh.
I know, but it's I'd cut it, and at the end of one season, I think right before I was going to go to college, goes, Paul, you told me when I started with you, you told me that you only wanted $15 a time to cut my grass. You should have asked me what's it worth to him not to do it. He says, I would have given you $25, $30 a time. Go think about it. Ask the customer. You know, you got your prices, you got your packages and stuff like that, but you guys in your Salesforce arena are doing, for the ones that are doing custom stuff, what's it worth to the business? And work out some sort of payment plan for them. You know, because you're more important than the chief technology officer most of the time, because you're in the operational side. You know, and to get somebody else on the operational side putting together all the tools that's necessary to run their operations. Ideally, you can take that and go someplace else and use someone else to do it. In the custom development and Salesforce side, the Salesforce arena, you're really sitting in a very powerful position. You should be sitting on the executive board. So when the executive board makes decisions, you know the platform, you know how they operate. You can advise and go, hey, that's a real good idea. And go, no, well, if I do, it's going to affect this, this, and this in this division, this operation, this and that. But, you know, executive board members don't like to be caught by surprise. And where they're caught by surprise is regulation, and then their tools that they use to operate their business. And whenever you can make that slide, make that real simple, make that real easy, it goes a long ways.
Well, Paul, thanks for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you. Is there something that is coming up with your business, or a promotion or anything that you're doing that you would like to put in front of the listeners?
Yes. With all my experience, especially with managed services providers, I was one. I'm recovering. I help many others, MSPs. I help people that buy MSPs, private equity groups. I help anybody, search funders that want to buy MSPs, MSPs that just want to evaluate themselves. I wrote a tool called the MSP Business Evaluator and Accelerator, and it's been out for 4 years. We have thousands of people using it, and in just 15 seconds, an MSP can find out how much they're worth to a financial or strategic buyer. They find their multiples, and then find out their EBITDA. And if they're not happy with any one of those, we have an accelerator module that they can utilize to accelerate their growth through the MSP business maturity model, with customized, as you're growing, with customized blueprints and roadmaps to exactly what they need and what they need to do to level up their MSP, and then set the strategy to accelerate their growth moving forward. And it's just called the MSP Business Evaluator and Accelerator. It's under bizadvisoryboard.com, and you can go take a look for it. It pops up on the main screen, the Business Evaluator and Accelerator, but it's biz, B-I-Z, advisoryboard.com. And we're offering specials to your listeners of 73% off the evaluation side and 10% off the accelerator side. And they start off with COF V25 for the evaluation, and COFA for the accelerator, and COFA 10, for the accelerator.
Right on. Well, I'll put that in the description as well. And I love it. I love that you're helping these businesses grow, figure out how to continue their growth, modernize with AI, all these good things. So thank you so much for those resources. And thanks for talking with us today.
That's fine. And remember to friend me and follow my newsletters that I referred back to at Paul Daigle on LinkedIn.
Very good. I'll put that in the description as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.